Accept your new name and wear it with honor. Welcome, brother.
Hello. I know a lot of you have been wondering where Maddie is in these videos we post on Friday, so I thought I'd open up this video with a bit of a clarification. Maddie's gone. He's never coming back. Or he'll be back next week, don't worry. So who the hell am I? Well, I'm Locke, and up until 2 weeks ago, I edited every video on this channel. Until one day, Maddie called me, and, well, I recorded it. Listen to this. Maddie, what's up?
I hired someone younger, better, faster than you. You're done.
Okay, I guess I understand. I can go edit for somebody else, I guess. No hard feelings.
No. You're going to keep working for me, bitch. You're going to make videos on old games nobody cares about and clicks on, and I'm going to put titles on them like, is Fallout really that bad? So they'll get extra mad at you.
Alright, well that's pretty mean. Can I make a video about Kingdom Come Deliverance at least? Hello? Maddie? In the 14th century, the Kingdom of Bohemia, which these days is called the Czech Republic, was flourishing under the rule of King Charles IV, who was also the Holy Roman Emperor. See, even in those days people had to work multiple jobs to get by. His subjects were happy, and through his rule, the kingdom itself was going through a golden age of wealth and prosperity. Sadly, King Charles died in 1378, and his eldest son, Wenceslas IV, wasn't exactly as good at the job as his dad. Fat, lazy, and drunk is how people described him. He was so lazy, he didn't even show up for his own coronation. Now, a large portion of the Bohemian nobles didn't like that. They didn't like that at all.
Not one bit.
So they rebelled against their king and called in the aid of his half-brother, Sigismund, the king of Hungary. Sigismund kidnapped and imprisoned King Wenceslas and started pillaging the Bohemian countryside, punishing every ally Wenceslas still had. And then, nothing happened for 600 years. Nothing at all. Europe was totally fine. A time of love and peace for everyone, all over the continent. Good times, really, all around. Until in 1997, Illusion Softworks was founded. If you're a PC player and you're not as young anymore, you'll probably remember them from the fantastic 1999 tactical shooter Hidden and Dangerous. One of the graphic designers on this game was a charming young man called Daniel Vavra. Now, Daniel had big ideas and even larger ambitions. He began writing a script about a fictional city in the US called Lost Heaven. Set in the Prohibition era of the 1930s, this is where we meet Tommy Angelo, a taxi driver who becomes one of the most important members of the Salieri crime family. Throughout the game, appropriately called Mafia, the City of Lost Heaven, see they even put the city in the title, we follow Tommy's rise and fall. Now, at this point, you might ask, what the hell are you doing? What's up with the history lesson? Where's Kingdom Come Deliverance? Get on with it! But it'll start making sense right now. You see, young Danny Boy had a vision for Lost Heaven, and that vision was realism. The whole city needed to feel as real as it could be. Realistic 30s era cars with realistic speedometers and realistic cops that would pull you over if you crossed them. The city of Lost Heaven needed to feel real to its core, with a realistic layout and realistic NPCs that would run away if they saw violence instead of indulging it like in other open world games. Now, did young Danny succeed in his strive for realism? Yes he did. Mafia was a huge success on PC, and critics applauded it for its sense of realism and fantastic storytelling. There was also a console port, but let's just moving on. Daniel began working on a sequel, appropriately called Mafia 2, and this time he would take realism to the next level. Mafia 2 had seasonal weather effects in a city called Empire Bay that you could see change over the course of the many years the story took place in, going from the 40s to the 50s. There were realistic cars and realistic fashion with realistic buildings to the era we were in. However, during development, Illusion Softworks got bought by 2K Interactive, who renamed the studio 2K Czech. They restructured the studio, and Danny did not like this.
Not one bit.
They even started meddling with the story of Mafia 2, and if you've played it, you know the ending is kinda weird, right? They even rejected Daniel's story for Mafia 3, and that's when he had enough. He left the studio in 2009, 1 year before Mafia 2 even released, and disappeared forever, until he reappeared in 2011, when he founded Warhorse Studios. Young Daniel had gotten older, wiser, better, faster, and he had written a new script for a realistic open-world RPG set in 15th century Bohemia. Dungeons, but no dragons. Warhorse Studios put up a Kickstarter campaign to fund this project, which became such a huge success that they almost got 4 times as much as they initially asked for. Kingdom Come Deliverance was born. Set in the year 1403, we play as Henry, a poor blacksmith's son who grows up in the small silver mining town of Skalitz. During the admittedly very long introduction, we get accustomed to the various systems in the game through a couple of chores. We get to beat up the local drunk, or more likely get our ass kicked, throw shit at a lovely house, beat up some more people, or again, get our ass kicked, run away, and get our first look at the dice gambling minigame called Farkle. We meet a couple of interesting and unique characters with a lot of personality straight off the bat who will also return later in the game. However, as soon as Henry returns with the items his dad asked him to get, and they forge a nice looking sword for Sir Radzig, the Lord of Skalitz, their little town gets attacked. Sigismund's army is there to ransack the place, and is being led by a bold guy with a mustache, which is how we know he's the bad guy. Well, he also kills Henry's parents, I guess, but it's pretty emotional when you play it. Henry escapes and comes across Theresa, who's also in a bit of trouble. Henry flees to the nearby town of Talmberg. Now at this point you might think the introduction is over, the game has started, hell yeah, but nope, not yet. It's here where he meets Sir Divish and Captain Robard, who take him in. That evening, they found out Sir Radzig also managed to escape, and he tells them he's heading for the city called Rate. The next morning, the bald guy returns, but Sir Divish manages to convince him that there's nothing to see in Talmberg. Henry's pissed and wants to go bury his parents, but gets told no by basically everyone. And this is where the game's most interesting mechanic comes into play. Because there's definitely a certain way the developers want you to complete a quest, but you can do whatever the hell you want, and oftentimes it works. For instance, right here, we find out from a guard that he's willing to let Henry escape if he looks like someone he'd open the gate for. So we have to buy a lockpick, steal a guard uniform, equip all the necessary weapons and armor, pass a speech check, and then the gate opens up and we can leave. Now the other way to do it is this.
Has gone and jumped in the moat.
Bye.
Raise the alarm. He's trying to escape.
And that's what Kingdom Come Deliverance is all about. Choices. Not in the way the story plays out, but how you tackle quests. So Henry escapes, goes back to Skalitz, gets the shit beaten out of him once again, his sword stolen, and this is where the game finally begins. Henry wakes up just outside of Rate, where Theresa, the girl we saved earlier, has been taking care of us for the past couple of weeks. And here we go. The world is our oyster. Avenge our parents, get our sword back, do our thing. So what is Kingdom Come Deliverance really? We have a question about this from one of our patrons, because Strawhead Ninja asks, I have this game and I've always intended to play it. What games would you compare it to? It's Oblivion for adults. I'm not just saying that, look at the menus and the way they're designed. It's Skyrim for masochists. It's a beautiful, immersive, expensive, open-world first-person RPG that prides itself on realism. When we finally get to start the game, Henry sucks at everything. Don't get me wrong, he's an amazing character, but he can't fight, he can't run very far. He has to consistently eat and sleep to keep his energy up. But don't eat too much or you'll get sleepy again. The various sim life systems and symbols that are really in place to keep Henry alive tell you everything you need to know. The start of the game is extremely hard because we have to train Henry from zero. We'll have to take combat lessons to actually improve our skills. We have to run, jump, and shoot arrows to get better, stronger, faster. And the leveling, just like in Oblivion, or more like Skyrim maybe, happens organically. The more you use a skill or perk, the better you get at it, and the more you can specialize in it. Looking at the skill tree, in quotation marks, there's only a couple of main ones to pick from, but you can get really deep into them, and they each offer different perks to enhance Henry's abilities. They even give you new skills to play with. Now, as we mentioned before, there are speech checks in the game, and a whole reputation system based around them. Level up your speech and you can lie to people, convince them not to fight you, or solve quests in a different way. Henry is a peasant and he can't read, so if you want to specialize in alchemy, you better learn how to read first. Again, realism and immersion. These are the pillars of Kingdom Come Deliverance. Level up your stealth, go unnoticed, and learn how to pickpocket. Low on money, which is called groshens here? Wait for nightfall and break into one of the many stores in the game, find a fence, which are usually the millers, and sell them the items you stole. To do that, however, you need to level up your lockpicking skill. And oh boy. You know how in every game, lockpicking is ridiculously easy and you never really need to get the harder lockpicking skills because you can open every hard lock basically right away if you've ever played a game before? Welcome to Kingdom Come Deliverance. This is one of the easiest practice locks in the game. I know it probably doesn't translate well on screen and maybe you just think I'm a bad gamer, but these locks are hard, man, especially if you're playing with the controller. To be fair, they added an option for easier lockpicking, but it's still so different from most other RPGs, where these elements are completely neglectable. In Kingdom Come Deliverance, you have to learn them, hone your skills, and in return you actually feel Henry getting better, which is such an incredibly satisfying reward system. The game is hard, and that includes the save system. You don't just have endless saves you can use, but you actually need an item called Savior's Schnapps for that. You drink this and then you can save. Now after launch they also added the option to save when you quit, but it's still pretty intuitive and could make you lose lots of progress if you're not careful. There's also fast travel and the map looks gorgeous, by the way, absolutely beautiful, one of the best maps I've ever seen in the game. But when you fast travel, time also continues. So sometimes you'll travel from one side of the map to the other, but when you get to your destination, you desperately need to eat or sleep before you pass out. You can also get stopped or ambushed on the way there and could easily lose the little health you have left. By now, it should be clear that Kingdom Come Deliverance is not for the faint-hearted. This includes the combat. And we have a question over on our Patreon from our good friend Meatball. He says, "Greetings from Arizona, Locke. I remember playing this game and initially being really irritated with the unique combat. I turned on God mode with console commands on PC and had a lot more fun just playing through the story. What do you think of the combat?" I get it, the combat is hard, but I also love it. The whole game, including the combat, is played in first person. At its core, it holds the same rock, paper, scissors system that most games have in play. But there are so many permutations here that it not only makes combat an exhilarating experience, but it also creates more realism and again, immersion. The wheel in the center of the screen has 5 angles, which are basically the angles you hold your sword at and slash with. The center of the circle makes you stab. You can chain attacks, which is based on rhythm and animation. You really have to pay attention to your opponent and what angle he's swinging from. The same goes for blocking or dodging, which works in a similar manner. You can even feint attacks and make opponents block from the wrong angle. Once you get the hang of it, the combat system is easy to use, but like everything in Kingdom Come Deliverance, very hard to master. At the start of the game, if you go up to 2 or more enemies, you're basically done for. They'll kick you, backstab you, and you'll have very little chance of getting out of there alive. Again, hone your skills, get better skills, and you'll be able to defeat more of them at once. There's also archery you can specialize in, and there's no dot in the center of the screen to make things easier for you. Again, practice makes perfect. There are different weapon types and armor throughout the game, but the most important thing will always be your skills and honing them. As you could probably tell, the game looks absolutely beautiful, even to today's standards. We have a question about this over on our Patreon where Guy asks, "This game has the best forest I've ever seen in a game." That's not really a question, but he's right. It runs on the CryEngine 3 and has the most gorgeous forest and landscapes I've ever seen in a game. I mean, look at this. Look at it. You don't see that in Skyrim. Well, unless you install like 700 mods that turn your character in a big booby anime mess, but you know what I mean. At the start of the game, you'll see a lot of these forests, fields, and farms, because you'll be traversing most of them on foot. A little bit later in the game, you'll get your own horse, but again, nothing is as simple as it seems. Horses are not just fast traversal methods to get to your destination, but they can also carry more weight. That's right, everyone's favorite gameplay mechanic is back, weight. So depending on what horse you use, speed or carry weight differ, and one could be more important than the other. Towns feel alive with NPCs that are on a schedule who need to eat, sleep, tend to their stores, or get drunk. They remember what happens, what you did, and who you are. If you look like a bum with dirt on your face, they'll tell you, and you might want to wash up so you'll look more presentable and can more easily pass their speech checks. They'll haggle with you, play dice with you, and some of them might even join you in combat. The music is atmospheric, and the beautiful medieval themes and flutes will stick with you long after the game is over. I know you're probably wondering about the story itself, but I don't want to spoil you too much. You'll meet a handful of very well-developed characters, like Henry himself, who change and warm up to you over the course of the game. My favorite one has to be the arrogant Sir Hans Capon, the nephew of Sir Hanush, the Lord of Rattay. The first time you meet him, he'll challenge you to an archery contest, and when you win, he'll also challenge you to some sword fighting. Win this and slowly earn his respect and the other lords of Rattay. This town basically serves as your base and where you'll find most of the main characters. You'll enter the service of Sir Ratsig, and even though your main objective will always be to avenge your parents and reclaim your father's sword, the game is filled with brilliant side quests, which you can tackle in various ways like we've shown before. You'll become part of the town's guard, you'll solve a murder, hunt a serial killer, give a sermon while you're drunk. Hell, at some point you'll even find a coven of witches out in the woods, who'll make for some pretty entertaining scenes. There's one quest I want to highlight because it also showcases the other mode we haven't talked about yet. You see, Kingdom Come Deliverance also has a hardcore mode. There's no more compass or health bar. The map doesn't show you where you are and only shows points of interest when you're close to them. Combat is way harder since there's no more circle and there are negative perks like nightmares or brittle bones. But my favorite one is Somnambulant. I hope I pronounced that right. This is a wildcard perk that causes you to sleepwalk. So at random moments in the game when you go to sleep, there's a chance you wake up somewhere completely different and have to find your way back on a map that doesn't show you where you are. Now, I was playing on hardcore and was on this quest with Hans Capon where we were hunting in the forest. At some point he runs off, gets kidnapped, and you have to save him there, but you also have to spend the night in the forest. He tells you to go to sleep, so I did, and when I woke up, I was somewhere else. As you can see, I frantically had to find my way back to the forest we were in before Hans would wake up and take off without me, probably making me fail the quest. So I coordinated myself by using landmarks. I found a stable, stole a horse, went south, past a shrine, which made me realize where I was on the map, and somehow found my way back just in time for Hans to wake up, asking me where the hell I was.
What are you waiting for?
I'll never forget that moment. What an exhilarating, fun, and original way to implement negative skills. I love it. Now, I've been kinda raving about Kingdom Come Deliverance, but I have to be honest. At launch, it was basically unplayable. Bugs everywhere, and not just from a technical standpoint. Quests would break, NPCs would disappear, cutscenes were interrupted or straight up didn't play, you got stuck in the game and couldn't progress anymore. It was completely borked, and it took a few years to get it to the brilliant state it is in right now. And this is coming from someone who adored it, even back then with all the bugs. This definitely turned a lot of people off when it launched and explains the mid-reviews it got, especially on consoles. Frame rates were all over the place and are still not all that great in heavy populated areas, but now that most of those things are fixed, I gotta say I adore this game. I also have a big personal connection to it. You see, 2018, when the game came out, was the worst year of my entire life. 2 years prior, my dad, who was a great man and an even better father, had a horrible accident, which left him with severe brain damage. Physically, he was sort of fine, but mentally, he was a different person. After his accident, he was in a coma for 3 months, and when he woke up, he didn't remember who he was and became very aggressive. Sadly, this condition never went away, and at a certain point, the hospital or other institutions couldn't deal with the aggression and the unprovoked violence anymore. They didn't really know what to do, and neither did we, but since he obviously couldn't take care of himself anymore, I moved in with him. He had a few lucid moments here and there, but most of the time, my dad either slept, watched TV, or was just furiously angry. Which was the exact opposite of the social and lovable man he was before the accident. It wasn't his fault. Brain damage is a terrible, terrible thing. You can compare it with having late-stage dementia accompanied by being a mean drunk. Because of his condition, friends and family slowly disappeared over the months, and soon it was just him and me. I took care of him during the day, we went for walks, or I tried to get him to remember me or his life prior to the accident, but at night, he sat on the couch and watched TV while he fell asleep. And during these hours, I escaped into Kingdom Come Deliverance. The game kept me sane for a full year. It was such a deep, immersive, rewarding experience that I think it quite literally saved my life. Bugs and technical issues aside, the story of Henry coming into his own, avenging his parents and honing his skills was highly personal to me, and I adored every second of it. They also added various DLCs to the game over the years, like a short segment where you get to see the point of view of Theresa, or you get to rebuild your own little town. You even get your own dog. These DLCs were truly the cherry on top, and make an already great game, after the bugs were ironed out, even better. So as we come to the end of this video, you've probably seen the announcement Warhorse Studios made. We're getting a sequel, and we're getting it this year. Unless they bork the launch again, or it gets delayed, I already know what my game of the year is going to be. I doubt it'll come out anytime soon before the end of the year, so if you have a couple of months to spare and are looking for a deep, immersive, hard, gorgeous, character-driven game, I highly recommend Kingdom Come Deliverance, in its current state anyway. If you like Bethesda games, there's an incredibly high chance you will like Kingdom Come Deliverance, and it might even become your favorite. Next week I won't be here, Maddie will be, so I'll see you again in 2 weeks, but if you decide to try out Kingdom Come Deliverance in that time, let me know. I'm interested to hear what you think of it. Other than that, have a great day, my friends.